Do you often find yourself doubting your abilities, even though you've accomplished so many things that other people admire? There is a part of you that knows that you're capable of more, but something is holding you back from fully embracing your potential. You might even say that you want to overcome self-doubt, that you feel inadequate. But we're going to shift you out of that, and you're going to see yourself differently within the next few minutes. Hi, if you need to meet, my name is Raquel, and I'm your GPS for success. This is day 18 of 21 in this podcast series that I've called Made for More. Everything you need is in the description below, including an amazing Activate Abundance Audit. It's a 21-day adventure for you that also includes some bonuses. And with this series, I've also have a link down there that shows you all the links in order for the other 17 days for ease of reference, because I like ease of reference. I hate finding something. They're like, where are the rest of the videos? I can't find them. So I created a post for you. And then if you would like to look at the previous series, it was 21 days manifestation for Jesus lovers. But let's get into this one about overcoming self-doubt and this inadequacy issue. There was this quote from Darius Daniels I heard the other day, and he said, "How far you go and how much you grow is not just determined by what you believe about God, it is equally impacted by what you believe about you." And when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, I say that so much. And the way I say it is that generally you're never going to go any further than how you see and feel about yourself. That is your set point. So the way you see yourself, the way you feel about yourself in any given moment, that is where you're going to fall back to. So yes, you can be in the right environment and the right, having a great support system, and have that encouragement and you feel really good, or maybe you can do some body language things to kind of push you into a different state. But as soon as you're out of that space, away from your friends, away from your colleagues, that particular presentation is over, the conversation is over, you're going to go back to your set point, which is how you feel and see yourself. You can believe certain things about God, but if you don't believe that what he says about you is true for you, it's really hard for you to embrace it. Sometimes you want to have some behavior modifications. And so we try to behave a certain way, but what happens is that because your belief system is not changing, maybe you're not getting the results that you want. This is going to lead to frustration, bitterness, resentment, because behavior modification doesn't work. It's only a Band-Aid. Eventually, you're going to have to deal with you, how you feel and see yourself. And that's what this series is about. It's around identity. There is this gap sometimes for us, and we all go through that. So nothing has gone wrong. If you're feeling inadequate, if you're having self-doubt, if you don't feel like the way you feel about yourself and see yourself is what God is saying about you, nothing has actually gone wrong. It's actually just normal. You're normal. It is just the way you're wired to succeed. It is just the thoughts that you're taking in. You are literally one embodied thought away from what you want. There is this little gap that we might call inadequacy for the sake of this conversation. But it's actually not a bad thing. One of the things that people come to me for, and I asked this about my inner circle, the ARC. Well, it was one of the things that I really helped them with. And they're Gen Z and millennials. And they actually said the same thing, that they felt like they had an identity crisis. I'm like, you're so young to have an identity crisis. But the language was, you helped me to understand who I was, my personality gift clusters, how there's nothing wrong with me, reconnecting to how I'm wired to succeed. loving myself, understanding that self-love is part of it. Yes, because we're told love our neighbors, but they always stop there. The rest of that is as yourself. And as they started to understand themselves better, they started to appreciate themselves better. And this distorted image of themselves just started to fall away because it was no longer being fed. They started to allow the truth to come in, and that truth that they embraced set them free. And it's the same for everybody. We all have had negative influences that have distorted our self-image. One of the things that came to mind when I was writing some notes for this and getting some notes together was when I was growing up, Daddy used to, he doesn't do it anymore, but when I was thinking about this distortion, Daddy used to put his thumb on one side of my cheek and the index finger on the other side so it looked like an L. You're thinking about what it looks like over my nose. And he would say, pero que nariz, which means what a nose, but what a nose. And so he would do that all the time. And I used to think when I looked in the mirror that I had this gigantic nose, almost like a cartoon nose, like if it actually was covering my whole face. Now, obviously, my nose is not that wide going from one side of my cheek to the other. But when I looked in the mirror, it just looked very distorted. So I found myself feeling very unattractive. And then in my early 30s, Daddy did that again. And I kind of just away his hand and I said, Daddy, I know I have a big nose. You don't have to remind me about that all the time. And he looked shocked. And he's like, what are you talking about? And he stroked my nose. And he said, you have a beautiful nose. And he turns his face. And I remember this so vividly. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. He said, you don't have a big nose. I have a big nose. And then he stroked my nose softly. He said, I love your nose. It's perfect. And he took my hands. He said, I am so sorry. I will never say that to you again. It has been over 15 years. Daddy is many things, and one of them is he is a man of his word. And it was I remember this so vividly because I felt a certain way about my appearance and my face. And in that moment, everything was redeemed. The next time I looked in the mirror, I saw my face for what it was. That distortion because of the negative influence. Now, he was teasing me. As Latinos, we tend to do that. We tend to tease people, as a sign of affection. I'm Puerto Rican. And that was so negative. Now, was it hyper negative? Not really, but it did distort how I saw myself. And because I didn't find myself attractive, right, then it went into other areas of my life. But in that one moment, everything was reversed. So even if you feel some way about yourself, in a moment, everything can change. You don't have to go through years of therapy, decades of therapy, do all this shadow work. It was just a moment of truth and clarity and love. And I saw my face for what it was. And as I was thinking about that, my beloved now, before he even heard this story, he would stroke my nose and say, I love your face, and touch my cheeks where my father used to put his finger. He said, you have beautiful, perfect bone structure. So now you can't tell me anything. To me, now I have beautiful, perfect bone structure because that's what beloved tells me all the time. Just like that. What you're believing about yourself is just a story. To maybe you're telling yourself over and over and over again based on a circumstance that happened. But it's just a story. And you can reframe that by the perception. That's all it is. We see in the good book that God tells us so many things, that we're salt, that we're light, that we're chosen, that we're beloved, that he passionately loves us, that he is our shepherd. And that's why we won't lack, that he's our healer, that He's our advocate, He's our standby, that He would never leave us or forsake us, that we are so loved. And if you want more around biblical affirmations, there is a video in this series, and it says 40 biblical affirmations. You can just go to the link below to find the video easily and scroll down, find the title, and click over. Easy peasy. There is this is something that we're not taught, is that everything that we are experiencing, the things that we are personally doing, because other people are doing things too, right? So because we're free moral agents, they have autonomy and they get to decide. But for the things that are in your power, the things that you want are, like I said, you're one embodied thought away from what you want, internalizing the truth. And that's what this series has been about. I've been showing you different methods and methodologies and giving you insight into what's really going on with you so that you can internalize the truth. It is not the truth that sets you free. It is knowing it. Like, you know that you know that you know. It was like the thing with my nose, right? I just knew that I knew that I knew my nose was like a cartoon and too big for my face, which was a lie. But I knew that. That was my truth, even though it wasn't true. That was my belief. And so that became my perception. And then in a moment, I internalized a new truth, that my nose was beautiful. And now a new truth, that I have perfect bone structure. Sometimes it takes a while for us to unravel those things that we believe. And this is why I also talked about during this series, a 21-day cycle. I've talked about how to really take that toxic thought and how to get rid of it, because it is messing you up. It's messing us up. We all have them. It is so important for us to recognize what the truth is, saying yes to that. And then once we recognize, sometimes you're like, yeah, but get your big butt out of the way. Do you still want to keep feeling the way you're feeling, or do you want that to change? And if you want that to change, you might think it's too hard, but that's not true either. It's not true. Maybe it'll just come from a moment with somebody, like it did with my dad, where everything changed. After decades of feeling like my face was distorted, everything was made right in a 2-minute conversation. We get to decide where we're going to put our alignment, where we're going to say yes to, what are we going to agree with, and that shapes our perception and our self-perception. And if we're not sure, then everything you need to know is in the good book. His thoughts toward you are always good, with an expected end of success. There's a verse about him singing over you. You are so passionately loved. Everyone struggles with inadequacy sometimes. At some point, it's actually very common. We see that with Moses. We see that with Jeremiah. But your inadequacy, when you're feeling led to do something like, I don't even know how I'm going to do that, it's an invitation for more. Your inadequacy feeling is actually a gift. Because if you would say, in spite of me feeling this way, I'm going to lean into it. Those spaces where you are feeling inadequate is actually the place where your gifts and your talents can get pulled out of. Your yes, in spite of how you feel, can take you to places where you haven't even thought to imagine or dream yet. You get to reframe your perceived weakness. It's an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity to rely on God. And maybe, just maybe, your feeling of inadequacy toward whatever it is that's pulling you is so that you can get to know God better as a provider. I was reading today in Hebrews, and there was a verse, I think it was, Hebrews 6. And in the comment section, it said that, speaking of the Holy Spirit, was like a business partner. The Holy Spirit is there. The Spirit of the living God is with you. Maybe you haven't even thought of God as your business partner. What is God calling you to partner with Him with? You think that you're inadequate. It doesn't matter. Just agree with your internal adversary, whether that's coming from external negative influences or you're negatively influencing yourself. It's still the same. You can just agree with it. Yeah, so I'm inadequate. So what? So was Moses. So was Jeremiah. You can even think about even recent political people, where when we're looking back at recent history and we speak kindly of them, but we find out some other things about them. And we're like, wait, they were actually, maybe not the best character, or maybe they didn't have all the ducks in a row, but they were still used to do good. We have so many examples of that. Your inadequacy feeling is an invitation for something that is so good, that is so dynamic, that actually ripples through time. So what can you do to cultivate self-worth and confidence? Confidence is going to come into doing. So if you're not feeling confident, that's okay. Admit it. I don't feel confident about this. I'm going to do it anyway. I remember my first book that I wrote was on Proverbs. And I remember reading a book. I can't remember the name of the book now. I was trying to remember. But it was around Proverbs, and somebody can tell me down in the comments. And it was about, he was reading the book of Proverbs every single day. So today is the 17th when I'm recording this. So I would read the 17th proverb. And he did that every day for years, and how it really helped him to be wise in finances. And I remember getting to the end of the book and I thought, where's the rest of this? For me, the book was not finished. It's like, okay, but I need some examples. It was just a lot of stories, and it was encouraging, but it felt like it was lacking something. And so I was talking to God about it after I read the book, and I'm like, it's missing something. It needs like a devotional to go with it. There was no devotional to go with it. Like, how do I implement what he's saying? How do I take a verse? All this other stuff. And then he's like, yeah, there's something missing. This is how God and I talk. I'm like, yeah, there's something missing. And it was almost like he's in the room going, yeah, there's something missing. There's a book missing. Why don't you write it? And I was like, oh, well, who am I to write a book? Who am I to write about Proverbs? Who am I to make I've never written a book before. Not one that's 365 pages. One for every day. And it just felt like God was looking at me in the room like, write the book. And I said, well, I don't think I can make it good. And the sense was like, it doesn't matter. Write what you need to hear. And if you need to hear it, at least one other person needs it. And isn't that worth it? That you change somebody else's life? And I remember when I finished it, I had a mentor at the time, and she was like over 30 years older than me. And she read it. And she said, you wrote this? And I was very young at the time. And I said, yeah. And she goes, by yourself? I was like, yeah. I got that book out so fast. Within like 90 days, I had the book written, edited, formatted, and printed through Lulu. And she's like, this is so good. And I remember other people reading it, and they would go to their birthday, and it would just speak to them. It's a highly prophetic writing. And people would get the book, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I'm dealing with today. I felt inadequate because I'm like, who am I to write? Who am I to, do this devotional on Proverbs and picking out a verse and then having, a story around it and giving them like basically like a journal prompt is what it ended up being. But in that short conversation with God, it was just like, oh, well, I'm just going to write what I need. And if I need it, maybe somebody else will. And that was how I really got used to writing. I have now an Amazon bestseller on prayer. But I took no thought on the other books because after I wrote that one, because in that point when I felt inadequate, God's answer to me was, so write it for yourself then. What do you need to hear? What do you need to know? What do you need to remember? What do you need to journal? What are you getting out of it? Just share that. And it was like so simple. Sometimes we talk ourselves out of doing something that's really going to impact another life when it's really just very simple. Your confidence will come in the doing. Your self-worth, this is what this series is about. The reason you feel the way you feel is only because of the thoughts that you have been taking. The thoughts that you have been entertaining more recently about yourself, the last 60 to 90 days, when a circumstance comes up, like this book, for instance, right? For me, my brain was offering up the easy fruits. Well, this is how you really feel about yourself. Here you go. It's not going to work too hard. Your brain is not keeping you safe. It's keeping you contained. So this feeling of inadequacy, of self-doubt, it's not your brain keeping you safe. It is keeping you contained, but it's only keeping you contained to your belief system. So if you change your belief system, everything changes. And it doesn't have to take a long time. It could just be a conversation. I call this the 1% model, or the 1% principle. And it's really just investing in yourself in mindset 1% of your day, which is less than 15 minutes. So what is the area where you are not feeling great about yourself? That is where you start. That is the area you work in. And actually, I do this with my clients all the time. It doesn't even take 15 minutes. When I'm doing my one-on-ones with my clients, it's like a 5-minute conversation. They see themselves differently. They feel about themselves differently. And because they do, then their actions are different. And because their actions are now different, they have different outcomes. You're judging yourself wrongly and too harshly. It is only the thoughts that you have been embodying the last 60 or 90 days. Your brain is just offering you that. So when the thought comes up, you could agree with him, like, okay, maybe. But this is what God says about me. And for right now, that's what I'm going to choose to believe. Your brain gets direction from the voice of your mind. This is why mindset is really everything. Because you will prosper and be in health as your soul, your mind, your mindset, your will, how you make your decisions, what decisions you choose to make, and your emotions, which is just data points of the process. It's just letting you know what's going on. Prosper. So if you don't want to feel that way anymore, you don't have to. And maybe that's the decision you make. I don't have to feel this way. Is it really that simple? Yes, it can really be that simple. If you decide it's that simple. Investing in yourself, you're always going to get a high ROI. And it ripples to everything around you. It's time for you to choose that you don't have to feel this way. Because there is some lie that you believe that's causing it anyway. And maybe you don't know what that lie is. But you just choosing it is what's going to allow you to tap into your potential. That's the way it works. So maybe you found yourself laying awake at night, wrestling with your self-doubt, wondering if you're truly capable of achieving your dreams. Maybe you've had this great idea for a business, but it's been nagging you, this voice of inadequacy. that keeps holding you back is just a lie. Maybe you've been passed over for promotion, and now you're questioning yourself about your career. Is it worth it? Now, these moments of uncertainty, they don't have to define you. You can choose something different. And if you want help with this, imagine having a trusted guide available 24/7, ready to help you navigate through these challenges, helping you to unlock your true potential. And that's exactly what the society offers, which is my membership. Think about it. If it's 2 a.m. and you have this breakthrough idea for your project, and as quickly as the excitement comes, maybe doubt creeps in. So instead of letting that idea slip away, you can reach for your phone and leave me a message to help you develop that idea. Or maybe you're about to have a crucial meeting and you're feeling unprepared or overwhelmed. Send me a message for a quick pep talk. Maybe you need a strategy session. The Society isn't just another self-help program. It's your personal growth partner, available whenever and wherever you need it. Our members report feeling more confident, achieving their goals more consistently, and overcoming challenges they once thought impossible. And you don't have to take my word for it. Actually, day 17's video is around a real life conversation that I just had with a client. As she was sending me the question, the download was happening in my head. I didn't even recognize that until I went to record. And if you want to experience that, the Society for yourself, we're offering right now a special 14-day test drive for only $7.77. That's it. The cost of a few fancy coffees, you can have round-the-clock access to expert coaching and support, and a bunch of other goodies too. And after your test drive, if you find that the Society is as transformative as I'm telling you, you can continue for only $97 a month. That's a small investment for unlimited access to guidance and support that you need to become the best version of yourself. And here's the thing. This offer is not going to last forever. The longer you wait, the more opportunities for growth and success you might miss. So ask yourself, are you ready to step into your full potential? Are you ready to silence that voice of doubt once and for all? And if you're nodding your head, then it's time to take action. Go ahead and grab the link below or go to manifestwithraquel.com. Your future self is counting on the decision that you make today. Don't let another day go by feeling stuck or unfulfilled. Join us. Start your journey to becoming who you were truly made to be. And if this is where I leave you, don't forget to grab all the goodies that I have for you down below. All the freebies, the links, the things that will help keep you on track. You are truly made for more. I'll talk to you on the next video. Bye now.